Are you confused about which class to play in Dragonflight, or just unsure what you want your main to be when the new expansion launches? Or maybe you're just curious about how each spec is changing going into Dragonflight and what new tools they're getting. Either way, join me as each week we go class by class, looking at every spec in the game and how they've changed from Shadowlands moving into Dragonflight. This is the state of Dragonflight. So as promised, here we are today with a brand new series. So this is the state of, where I'm going to go over every single spec in the game, that's including the new Dracthyr ones, Evoker ones, sorry. I'm going to be talking about their strengths and their weaknesses in Shadowlands and how those are changing going into Dragonflight, and what new tools they're getting going into Dragonflight. Now, I'm not going to talk about viability, I'm not going to talk about strengths, I'm not going to talk about what's going to be best. All I'm going to talk about here is new tools and new niches that they might be able to explore based on the kits that they're getting going into Dragonflight. Now this for me is going to be my way of kind of exploring all of the classes, kind of to build up towards my tier list going to come out later on in the cycle of like content and everything like that. But realistically, I'm really excited for this series. All the videos are going to be more edited than my other stuff, and I'm going to go over every single spec in detail as best as I can. Now the videos are going to try and stick them to 10-13 minutes. This one might be a bit longer because I have explanation at the start. But yeah, so we're going to start with the classes I think are the most completed based on their talent trees. If there's major updates and things, I'm not afraid to go back and do another video on them. But that means we're going to start with Shaman, and today we're going to start with Restoration Shaman. So I put a lot of work into these videos and all of my videos in general, so if you like them, consider subscribing. Lots of people aren't subscribed. I know it's not how we keep hunter content. I will still be doing that, but this is my way of kind of diversifying, exploring other classes, and just having some fun with it. So I hope you enjoy the video. I put a lot of work into it, and thanks for watching. So, like I said, the first in this series is going to be covering Restoration Shaman. Now, Restoration Shaman is the healing specialization of the Shaman class. They are male wearers, intellect, and, big totem fantasy, big elemental fantasy, big water casters. They heal that kind of way. Lots of people love Restoration Shaman. I think it's pretty fun. And first we're going to talk about their strengths and weaknesses in Shadowlands, and then we're going to talk about kind of the tools they're getting moving into Dragonflight. So first we'll go over their strengths. So I'll throw them up on the screen as I go through them. So their strengths, their number one strength, I think this is the biggest gain they have over other stuff, is they have great spot and stacked healing. They have really good ability to heal stacked targets with stuff like their totems, like Ancestral Protection Totem, stuff like Spirit Link Totem, stuff like Healing Rain, stuff like Chain Heal. All those things are incredibly efficient and really, really good at healing targets that are very, very close together. Another one of their really big, important strengths is their ability to cast while moving with Spirit Walker's Grace. This one is much more niche than others, but it's a way of casting while moving, which a lot of other healing specs don't have, especially because one of Shaman's weaknesses, which we'll get to, is their long cast times. Shamans are fairly survivable in terms of Vital Accretion and Astral Shift. Astral Shift being a pretty big DR on a fairly short cooldown, and Vital Accretion being a very large health gain with their elemental, rock elemental, so to speak. Now, they also have really unique, powerful healing tools. Spirit Link Totem is a very, very unique and impactful raid cooldown, offering 20% DR, as well as the ability to redistribute health pools within its targeting circle. This is unlike any other cooldown you can get, especially since it's on a 2-minute cooldown. And when this is valuable, Resto Shaman is very, very good. Things like Ancestral Protection Totem and Ancestral Vigor are also situationally very useful. If you can find a use for Ancestral Protection Totem to kind of sack off a target in a raid, or to save a tank's life if you know something bad's about to happen, then it's very invaluable. And Ancestral Vigor can also give your targets much more health in order to survive things that they might not be able to otherwise. Finally, Restoration Shaman has two other really good niches. They have great damage in terms of Vesper Totem and their Earthquake Legendary. And they have amazing non-healing tools. They have stuff like Reincarnation, which is incredible. It's short of a cheat death. It's one of the better things, because it can allow you to cheat some mechanics. It has Windrush Totem, which is very valuable. It, in Shadowlands, is the only healer with a kick, and it does have the best kick in the game in Wind Shear, which is a ranged 11-second kick. It has a Purge, it has a Stun, it has Earthbind and Earth Grab Totem, and it has Tremor Totem. So they have an incredible suite of utility that allows them to adapt themselves or be useful in many different situations, which is very, very good for a healer. Now, in terms of weaknesses, they do have a lot. So I mentioned that one of their strongest is their greatest spot and stacked group healing. Well, their downside of that is that they lose a lot of potential if your targets have to spread out. If you can't leverage the effects of stuff like Wellspring, of stuff like Chain Heal, of stuff like Healing Rain, and things are super spread out, then Shamans themselves lose a lot of their viability in terms of healing, especially because their totems, such as stuff like Spirit Link, Ancestral Protection, Ancestral Vigor, can't actually help out or hit those targets when they're super spread out. Another big downside is they don't have any form of quick movement, no baseline kind of teleport, jump, or some kind of thing that allows them to move very quickly from one spot to another. All they have is Spirit Wolf and Spirit Walker's Grace, and those simply don't allow you to cover things in a lot of other scenarios. Because of this, lots of Shamans go Goblin for access to that jump. They also have no ability to immune things. While this isn't too big of a downside, there are healer specializations that do have immunities, so I figured it's worth to count this out. Another downside to their healing, while a lot of their spells are fairly efficient and they're very, very mana efficient, a lot of them are very slow cast-wise, or things that, or if they're faster casts, they are actually less mana efficient than a lot of other abilities. So a lot of other tools that you want to be using for healing, aside from like Riptide and stuff, are tied to longer cast times or higher mana costs. So to trade off for those lower mana costs or quicker cast times, you can't kind of have both. You know, there's kind of a weakness to them in terms of their longer cast efficient spells or stuff like that. They also have a fairly low damage potential. Well, yes, they have the ability to do instant cast stuff with Lava Burst and with Flame Shock. Outside of that, all of their damage is low, besides their kind of instant cast Flame Burst they can, Lava Shocks they can throw out, and isn't passive. So they do have to actively be doing damage, aside from Earthquake Legendary, of course. Which means that you can't be healing while kind of lightning bolting your target, for instance. One of their final big weaknesses, and this one can be pretty bad in like certain dungeon scenarios or stuff like that, is that they lack a tank cooldown. Their only real tank, external really, is Earth Shield, and Earth Shield doesn't actually help the tank survive things. Really all it does is boost kind of the passive healing you do to the tank. They don't have something like Pain Suppression, they don't have something like Iron Bark or Iron Skin. They don't have stuff that a healer can give to the tank to help them live a higher damage input. So realistically, in Shadowlands, Shaman has been a great pick in most scenarios. It was never the best in raiding. It was very good in 9.0. In Castle Nathria, that was a lot of group healing. However, in 9.1 and 9.2, there's a lot of spread out healing, and a lot of other healers just kind of outclass Shaman. In terms of M+, Shaman has been very good for most of the expansion. It's always been kind of top or second top for the past two tiers because of their ability to do really good damage with that Kyrian Totem and with that Earth Elemental. These things kind of combine for that good passive damage that they don't have in their base kit, and kind of can prop up those kind of downsides or weaknesses that other classes or that Shaman themselves do have. Now, that's it for Shadowlands, and now let's move on to Dragonflight, and we'll see what they're getting and what's changing, and allowing them to kind of potentially fill out new niches or explore new abilities that they haven't been able to before. When looking at Dragonflight, Restoration Shamans look to retain a lot of their strengths, while also getting tools and unique utility to allow them to buff up or shore up or otherwise work around their weaknesses that were mentioned before. Primarily, one of these weaknesses was their movement. However, Shamans are now gaining one of the best talents I think on their class tree, Gust of Wind. Gust of Wind effectively is a Shaman-flavored Goblin jump on a 30-second cooldown, allowing them to jump forward whenever they use the button. This is super powerful as it gives them some form of instant movement, which they just lacked before. They're also gaining some new ways to be tanky. Now, as I mentioned, tankiness was one of their strengths for Restoration Shaman in Shadowlands. They had stuff like Nature's Guardian, their Earth Elemental, and also Astral Shift. However, they were losing the Earth Elemental, causing them to lose a lot of their tankiness. However, new talents that buff up Astral Shift, that is Astral Bulwark, making it 15% more DR, or Plains Traveler, having it be a 30-second less but increasing its duration, allow them to be much tankier. They also gain stuff like Brimming with Life, giving them 8% health when Reincarnation is off cooldown. They gain stuff like Nature's Guardian, which returns. They gain Ancestral Defense, which is a 2% avoidance and leech node. And they also gain Elemental Warding, which is a 4% magic damage taken node. So they gain a lot new defensive tools. They also gain new utility in the forms of Mana Spring Totem, which is a mana restoration tool. They gain Poison Cleansing Totem, which cleanses poison, if that's ever useful. And they gain Stone Skin Totem, which is a party totem that reduces physical damage taken by 10%. They also gain other ways of crowd control, such as Thunderstorm, which can knock up or knock back. And they gain stuff like Earth Grab, Wind Rush, and other returning tools. So realistically, Shamans are getting a lot of new things that fix a lot of their weaknesses from Shadowlands into Dragonflight. In terms of healing, They also gain Ancestral Guidance, which is a 2-minute cooldown, allowing them to turn 25% of the healing and damage they do into healing on 3 nearby party or raid members. Now this is another cooldown that allows them to have wider cooldown coverage and do more outside of those bigger cooldowns. In terms of their spec tree, they're getting a lot of tools and abilities to outweigh the losses that they've had moving from Shadowlands to Dragonflight. Realistically, Shaman's going to play almost exactly the same, and their weaknesses will still be there and pronounced, but some of the weaknesses will be much weaker. Much better. What I mean by that is one of Shaman's big weaknesses was AoE damage, right? So they were losing a lot of their tools, such as their Earthquake Legendary and their Kyrian Shaman Totem, moving into Dragonflight, which causes them to have lower output in AoE situations. However, they are gaining 3 talents which are looking to fix this. They are gaining Call of Thunder, which is an 8% Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning increase, which can also have impacts in single target. They are gaining Stormkeeper, which is a 1-minute cooldown that causes your next 2 Chain Lightning or Lightning Bolts to deal 150% more damage and be instant. This can also have applications in single target. And they are gaining Acid Rain, which is big as it's a passive way of dealing damage, effectively turning their Healing Rain into a Consecration that also heals. These tools are looking to buff up and shore up the weakness that Shaman is having with their damage in Dragonflight. In terms of the weakness with unable to heal if raid is not stacked, that is still present. However, they are gaining tools to be even stronger at their stacked healing, and one tool that allows them to potentially be better at spread healing. So this tool is Living Stream, which makes Healing Stream Totem heal for 10% more each time it ticks. Healing Stream ticks fairly often, every 1.8 seconds for 15 seconds, healing a injured party or raid member. So this can allow you to heal kind of those spread targets fairly efficiently. They also gain cooldown on their Water Totem, so on their big Healing Stream, Mana Tide, and Healing Tide. They have reduction on that, allowing them to heal spread out targets more often. However, this is still one of their weaknesses, as if those things aren't present, they cannot do much at all, besides some Riptide, and they're keeping ways of spreading Riptide in Primordial Wave and in Primordial Core. Finally, they're getting new tools, new returning tools, allowing them to be even better at stacked healing. They're keeping a lot of their unique totems, such as Earthen Wall Totem, which I mistakenly called Ancestral Vigor Totem earlier, Ancestral Protection Totem, and Spirit Link are all returning. And they're getting tools such as Ancestral Reach, which increases the healing of Chain Heal by 8% and makes it bounce another time. Nature's Focus, making Chain Heal the primary target of Chain Heal for 20% more. Waysphere's Blessing, Riptide healing for 3 more seconds. And Overflowing Shores, which Healing Rain instantly restores X amount of health to allies within its area, and its radius is increased by 2 yards. These are all tools allowing them to be even better at that stacked healing than they were before, as well as incentivizing them to push Chain Heal more than they have been in the past, with realistically Chain Heal being moved out of the rotation for much of Shadowlands until their tier set in 9.2 cause them to push that much more. Shamans are getting tons of interesting and new tools to kind of shore up their weaknesses. However, they still have some in the forms of that stacked healing like I mentioned. Outside of Gust of Wind, their movement is lackluster. They still don't have an immunity. And outside of Acid Rain, their passive damage is still very low. It requires them to kind of sink those active globals in. However, with Lava Surge returning, they will be able to kind of weave those globals in between of healing casts. Overall, I believe that Shaman is looking fairly strong going into Dragonflight. Their niche has not really changed. They are still going to be one of the best, if not the best, at stacked healing and weak at spread healing. But if that scenario comes up and you need a Restoration Shaman or a special case for Ancestral Protection Totem or Spirit Link, they're going to be a very good pick for raids. And I think in M+, their ability to do more damage now will also make them quite fun and quite good whenever they are played. So with that, that is the end of our first State of Dragonflight videos for the Shaman class. This one being Restoration Shaman. Later on in the week, I will be covering the other Shamans, so Elemental and Enhancement, so look forward to those. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video and kind of getting a little update on how classes are looking and what niches they're seeing to be filled in Dragonflight. Realistically, I think the talent trees are super sick. Not all classes are changing substantially, but I think that's okay. The ones that are changing, I think, do need it, but a lot of them are just getting new and fun tools, and that's what this series is kind of, meant to show you those new tools they're getting. So leave me comments down below on feedback. This is a new series I'm starting, the new, more editing style. So if you guys liked it or didn't like it, let me know. Let me know how I can improve this, because I'm looking forward to doing every single spec and covering all of the ones and how they're changing into Dragonflight. I'm looking so much forward to this expansion. I'm trying to have a ton of content for it, and I just want to thank everybody for watching the video. You know, consider subscribing if you enjoyed it, leave a like, leave a comment, all that stuff, and I'll see you guys next time in the state of Dragonflight.